All right, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. It's your good friend Pozzible here, and I'm back in action, remembering another forgotten classic from days gone by. You know, this particular movie comes from a genre that is pretty much a dime a dozen. What I'm trying to say here before we get started into the actual movie is to remember that when it comes to martial arts genre, you can almost guarantee that there will be drugs involved. Police, drug war, revenge, death of a partner, death of a loved one. Um, but of course, there's also those moments where the hero gets knocked down, they have to get they have to train harder, and they come back and they're going to be they're going to defeat their nemesis, the bad guy, and stuff like that. The sameness of martial arts movies is crazy because let's face it, you don't go see a martial arts movie for the story or plot. You go see it for the action, for the fact that this person has trained their whole life to be as good at the moves that they can portray as pretty much anyone can imagine, and they can do moves that the average human being cannot do. That said, I present you with the best of the best. This was probably one of the best martial arts movies ever made in that they totally bucked the system. They brought martial arts back home to being a simple tournament. And that's one thing that made this movie so great. It really wasn't about something so extraordinary as somebody who can dodge bullets or somebody who can, beat up a whole room full of guys, even though that does happen in this movie. Got to break up the action a little bit. The best of the best follows the story of Tommy Lee and also Eric Roberts' character as they get chosen to fight in a tournament between the United States and Korea in a taekwondo tournament. Now, I've never really heard of this kind of tournament before, but that's okay. You get the rules pretty simple, and that's thanks to the acting prowess of a James Earl Jones. He comes out and he says his job is to find and train champions. And that's what he does. So you have this big introduction where he has to watch all these martial arts tournaments, all these martial artists, compete in this like pre-tournament. And you see, Philip Ray's character, Eric Roberts' character, Chris Penn's character, and the others, okay? I do that deliberately because, to be honest, the other two were kind of like background characters. They did serve a purpose, and they were there sometimes as comic relief, but they were never stupid. You always felt really good about these guys. One guy was named Virgil, and I thought that was pretty funny as well. But the point is this. This is a movie that really was just a very human story of people, 5 individuals bonding together to win a tournament. You wouldn't expect that from a taekwondo match. I mean, after all, it's just one-on-one. But you can really fight better knowing that you've got your team right behind you. So it's about these 5 guys, 5 individuals that come together. And those were some of the best parts. At the beginning, these guys are wearing their own clothes. But near the end, you do see them wearing the team uniforms. You see the bonding coming together. The best part, though, of the best was the ending. When you go see a tournament, you expect one of two endings, right? They either win or they lose. Because they're the heroes, you expect them to win. Pretty obvious. But the way they handled the ending in this one movie was very special. So spoiler alert, I'm going to tell you the ending now, so you might want to cut this off if you don't want to know. If you haven't seen this movie yet, you really need to watch this movie. It's one of the best martial arts movies ever made. Again, not just because they threw out the old, drug deals and, one-man army type of stories that we're used to, but because they brought it home. It was these guys training to be the tournament. You saw the first 2 guys go, and they didn't do so well. And remember, those were the side characters. Those were the back characters. We didn't know much about them. They did okay, but they really got their butts handed to them. And then Chris Penn comes up, and he does pretty well. He actually ties with his guy, and they have this board breaking competition. And let me tell you something. The way this guy does a ridge hand to break the boards is beautiful. The shot is just cinematic, gorgeous, okay? Then comes Eric Roberts' character. He has to really get his team up ahead. They're not trailing by that much. But it's really between him and Philip Ray, Tommy Lee in the movie, to come together and win. He does. He does really well. But one thing you'll notice, if you notice on the right-hand side of the poster here, his hand's all wrapped up. This is one thing you gotta love about these kind of martial arts stories. They fight, and he fights really well. But I'll say one thing about Eric Roberts. You can tell when it's not him. You know, this was before GoPro, but there's a moment where you can see only Eric Roberts' character's leg kicking the guy, okay? But at one point, the guy was able to knock Eric Roberts down to the point where he really whacks his shoulder, okay? And that was the whole thing about Eric Roberts. Nobody really wanted him to do this because of his bad shoulder. He only has 3 or I think it's like 5 seconds left, if I remember correctly. And he wants to hold him off, and he does. And he just fights him with his one arm because he just needs to let the time go out. But that final knockout scene was classic. That brings us to Tommy Lee, Philip Ray's character, the last battle. And this is obviously the one where you expect a really good fight. Now, note, and this is something I didn't know until I studied this movie to do this video. The 2 guys at the end of the movie, in real life, they're brothers, okay? They built up this guy, Dae-Han, to be such a villain in this movie. They gave him an eye patch, you know, and yes, don't get me wrong, there's a little bit of a revenge story here because Dae-Han, the quote-unquote bad guy, killed Tommy Lee's brother in the movie. Okay, so Tommy Lee, deep down, he does want to kill Dae-Han for what he did. So there is that rebellion element. I guess we couldn't take it out all the way, but the point is this. Tommy Lee did not want revenge. I think there's part of him he understood. You know, it was a tournament. They were fighting each other. These things are going to happen and stuff like that. Their fight is one of the most beautiful fights you could ever see. And let's face it, it's Taekwondo. And that's what Taekwondo is known for. Those big, beautiful, flying kicks. You know, it was formed in Korea where you had to kick a general off of horseback, all right? So that's what Taekwondo is known for. And they have this one segment where it is just, they're not hitting each other yet because they're dodging, they're sweeping, and they're missing, but they're still just, the kicks are just incredible. The best you'll see in a movie of this caliber, let me tell you. But that said, there's this moment where Tommy Lee gets to win. All he has to do is knock this guy down. He is helpless too. He is, you know, standing up because that's what he does. He knows how to fight. This guy's Dae-Han, the villain, is a veteran. But now he is completely weak. Okay? And in the most unexpected turn, it's one of those moments where you literally are holding your breath. You've got Eric Roberts and James Earl Jones saying, no, don't do it, Tommy. Because they know that Tommy can use a power kick and end this guy's life. And nobody would probably think much of it because it was a tournament, right? But his own teammates are trying to get through to him, trying to stop him as the clock moves down. Now, the other half of this is that where the Americans are like 1 point behind. The heroes are 1 point behind. All he has to do is knock this guy down and we win. But on the other hand, and he's standing there helpless, but the guy's not going to go, but Tommy Lee's not going to go over and just lightly tap him. He wants to hit him with a power kick and just end it all right then and there. And he's got his own teammates yelling at him to stop. And the time is just slowly counting down. Luckily, they get Tommy to just at least freeze. And while Dae-Han doesn't die, Tommy, the Americans, quote unquote, lose. And at the ending ceremony, you know, the Americans are standing tall and strong. The Koreans are standing tall and strong. Dae-han got his eye patch back on. And they got their medals. And when they get their medals, Dae-han walks over to Tommy. And in the most heartfelt scene, apologizes for the death of his brother. And there was this beautiful exchange. Let's face it, Christopher Penn's character was a cowboy. So he wears a cowboy hat. He gave his cowboy hat to one of the Koreans, as the Korean gave him his medal. So because Dae-han was like the team captain, he goes over, he gives his medal to Tommy for letting him live and allowing the Korean teams to win. And it's just this beautiful coming together. Opposite sides bonding instead of just losing. And it was wonderful. Now, unfortunately, the sad thing about The Best of the Best was that the sequels that followed left this formula and went back to the martial arts, revenge, racist in one group, and underground fighting ring in another group. The second one really wasn't that bad. I will be honest with you. I kind of liked the second one. It didn't have the same heart as the first one, but it really had a good story and everything to the second one. More standard martial arts and stuff like that. I haven't seen third or fourth yet, but believe me, no one I've known has ever liked those movies. So, just saying. All right, guys, that's it for today. We'll see you at the theaters.